Shalom, everyone. I come to you today to talk to you about something that's been heavy on my heart for the last couple months. I've been meaning to get this message out to whoever may receive it quite a while ago, but because of my slothfulness and other reasons for my delaying this, I haven't gotten to it yet. This is a message that I believe is probably one of the most important messages that could be spoken at this time or at any time, to be honest. And it all points to who we are, where we're headed, and who we have to become. I think it's a very important message, and it's as you can see, it's basically the history of law. I'm no expert. I did a lot of research, a lot of reading. I could be wrong on a lot of points, but a lot of the things that I'm going to share with you are things that I have debated numerous times, but I have yet to hear any good answers back. I invite you all to learn about these things for yourself, and that's kind of what it's all about. Is whoever hears this, pick it up and prove it for yourself, because ultimately that's how you're going to learn anything for yourself instead of relying on other people. So I did the work and I proved it, and I think I can hold my own in an argument to prove these things. And so let's get right into it. The history of law. Most everyone knows or can agree that this nation was set up by laws that were handed down through history by our fathers and their fathers before them. But where did these laws come from? Allow me to take you back through the ages and share with you the surprising history of how these things came into existence. We start here in the American Republic. It is said and widely accepted as truth that the paramount law of this land is the Constitution. The addendum that caused the agreement of the several states to form this union is the capstone of the Constitution, the Bill of Rights. Article 7 of the Bill of Rights, the Seventh Amendment, says, "In suits at the common law, where the value in controversy shall exceed $20, the right of trial by a jury shall be preserved, and no fact tried by a jury shall be otherwise re-examined in any court of the United States than according to the rules of the common law." This serves to prove how the common law of England at the time of the Revolution was brought forward as active law. It should surprise most everyone to understand that not many people know what the common law is. Many people say it's a compilation of old, dusty laws that, because of modern technology, don't apply anymore, or are superseded by new laws, that those new laws may now become the new common law. But we shall soon discover that the common law is not so easily replaced or destroyed. I actually had a judge. I've only been to court one time, and this judge was actually a friend. I went to visit him, and he told me that the common law is now statutory law. That the common law is all new laws now. That's what he told me. And so the Constitution itself has a provision in Article 6, Paragraph 2, which states, "This Constitution and the laws of the United States, which shall be made in pursuance thereof, and all treaties made or which shall be made under the authority of the United States, shall be the supreme law of the land, and the judges in every state shall be bound thereby. Anything in the Constitution or the laws of any state to the contrary, notwithstanding." And you'll notice here it says anything in the Constitution or laws of any state to the contrary, notwithstanding. That means that if anything is contrary to the Constitution or laws of any state, it's notwithstanding in law. And you got to remember that the original 13 colonies, when they made their constitutions, they preceded the Constitution itself. So basically, their constitutions were constitutional before the Constitution was written. And that's something I think that's also very important to understand. And after these 13 colonies, other states had to come in and had to be given permission by Congress to come into the Union. And that's also kind of a problem, but we might get into that later. So anything contrary to the United States, to the Constitution, or the state constitutions are notwithstanding in law. I ask that you direct your attention to the specific wording in the text, all treaties made. This is very important and should be contrasted with the text, or which shall be made. What were the treaties that were made that were already made before the signing of the Constitution? It would be the documents such as the Articles of Confederacy, the Declaration of Independence, Northwest Ordinance, and our various treaties made with the Native Americans. And there's a lot more. There's more, but I'm not going to go into those now. The important thing to remember is that it must be made under the authority of the United States and pursuant to the Constitution, and not contrary. There is another set of documents that also must be added to the list of the treaties made that are written about in the Constitution. This is the Magna Carta and the Confirmatio Cartarum. The Magna Carta came from King John oppressing the English people with a sudden influx of taxes. The nobles of the realm rose up in rebellion against the king and forced him to sign a document guaranteeing the rights of the people. The king and the pope conspired to do away with the Magna Carta, but they both quickly died. They both died quickly after these events. The Magna Carta, or the Great Charter, as it became to be known as, was a treaty between the crown and the people to return to the laws held sacred by the English people before the days of William the Conqueror. When William the Conqueror came in, he established martial law, and this thing that King John did, it was also a form of martial law, and they were living under it for a long time, and it soon culminated to the point where they couldn't handle it. The Magna Carta was upheld again by the King of England, Edward I, in the Confirmatio Cartarum, which recognizes the Great Charter as the common law. That is to say that this Great Charter, or the Magna Carta, is the common law. And that's right, it's right here. This is I printed it off, and I'll try to put these links in the description so you can print them off and put them in your go bag. I don't know about anyone else, but this Passover has got me a little spooked, and I'm fairly certain I'm getting really sick of living in Egypt, and I'm sure Egypt is getting sick of me and people like me. And hopefully God delivers us from this bondage. But it says here in the Confirmatio Cartarum, it says, right here. It says, let's see here. And we will that the same charters shall be sent under our seal as well to our justices of the forest, as to others, and to all sheriffs of shires, and to all our other officers, and to all our cities throughout the realm, together with our writs, in the which it shall be contained that they cause the foresaid charters to be published, and to declare to the people that we have confirmed them in all points, and that our justices, sheriffs, mayors, and other ministers, which under us have the laws of our land to guide, shall allow the said charters pleaded before them in judgment in all their points, that is to wit, the Great Charter as the common law. And that's the Confirmatio Cartarum. Here's the Magna Carta right here. And this is the common law, basically pursuant to this treaty. So Article 6, Paragraph 2 brings these in, and this is defined as the common law. Now, the common law existed before the Magna Carta, and I'll get into that also. But this is really good stuff. For instance, let's see here. It says here in section 24. Boy, this is amazing. It says, no sheriff, constable, coroners, or other bailiffs of ours shall hold the pleas of our crown. That means that that the people who work under the crown, sheriffs, bailiffs, and even judges, cannot bring complaints against a free man into a court. There was a quote, and I really wish I had it, but I don't have it with me. But there was an idea in England at one time where if a man came into a room full of judges, he'd be able to kill one of those judges, and they would be powerless to complain against him unless someone witnessed the offense, which is kind of strange. But the fact is that in order to preserve the freedoms of our people, they had to go to that extent. No sheriff, constable, coroners, or other bailiffs of ours shall hold the pleas of our crown. So, I mean, like traffic tickets, any complaint that's brought against you by the government cannot stand. There has to be a injured party, and it has to be someone who is a free man who's able to make the complaint. So truly the government is supposed to be our servants. And there's a lot of stuff in it. I mean, it's just like amazing. There's the grand jury is in here. The jury itself is in here. Let's see here. And all of these are basically common sense. We will not make men justices, constables, sheriffs, or bailiffs, unless they are such as know the law of the realm and are minded to observe it rightly. Boy, what would that do today? But it is law. It is law. It is active law, pursuant to the Constitution. And I apologize for getting a little wrapped up in that. All right, these two documents were referred to by early America in the creation of the American Constitution, namely Article 7 of the Bill of Rights, the 7th Amendment. And I would recommend anyone to pick up any one of these pocket constitutions. They're great. They have a lot of really good information in here. It says here, Bill of Rights. Yeah, right there. Where was I? Yeah, it says here, in suits at common law where the value in controversy shall exceed $20, the right of trial by a jury shall be preserved, and no fact tried by a jury shall be otherwise re-examined in any court of the United States than according to the rules of the common law. So, which common law? There's only one common law. This is the treaties made that the Constitution refers to in Article 6, Paragraph 2. And that's right here. Article 6, Paragraph 2, right there. Article 6, Paragraph 2. And before the Magna Carta and before the burdens inflicted upon the people by kings from other nations, there was Alfred the Great. This man was the king of the Anglo-Saxons in the latter end of the 9th century. Alfred was a wise king and taught his people the laws that were handed down to their people from their fathers before them. He declared, after translating the books of the Bible from Latin to English, the law was first revealed in the Hebrew tongue. And And this is why. We read in Exodus 18:21, "Moreover, thou shalt provide out of all the people able men, such as fear God, men of truth, hating covetousness, and place such over them to be rulers of thousands and rulers of hundreds, rulers of fifties and rulers of tens." Well, it just so happens the ancient Anglo-Saxon communities were organized as follows. Every 10 heads of household formed a tithe, whose appointed leader was called a tithing man. Every 50 heads of household formed a village or vill, whose appointed leader was called a villman. Every 100 heads of household formed a 10 tithes, whose appointed leader was called a hundredman. Every 1,000 heads of household formed a shire, whose appointed leader was called a gareth, which was later abbreviated to reeve. Now we know them as the sheriff or the shire reeve. And here's some of the rights that we see in the common law, and they also correlate to such various Bible verses from the scriptures, specifically the Torah. And you can pause it and look at these if you want. And I'd like to bring your attention to this one, the right to put up a defense. And that's a very important right, because we see here that God said to Moses that he's going to destroy Israel. He's going to make Moses a mighty nation. And Moses puts on a good argument. And God listens to his argument and says, that's a good argument. And that's actually in the Magna Carta also. It says here, if I can find it. Basically, I'm going to paraphrase if I can't find it, but it says that no one may be stripped of their court. You always have the right to be heard. You always have the right to have access to the court, and that's kind of and I hold that true because there's the even in prison you can make a habeas corpus, and right now they're trying to curtail that right, and they're trying to basically make us forget about these things, and it's not good. And this is by no means an exhaustive list of rights that come out of the Torah. Other rights in the common law that parallel the Torah are law by charter, personal sovereignty, which is basically a republic, and that would also imply that the juries would be Republican juries also, as distinguished from democratic juries. For instance, the juries that condemned Yeshua, that was a Democratic jury, not a Republican jury. The difference between the jury that killed Socrates, that was a Democratic jury, not a Republican jury. Basically, the idea of a republic is that every person sitting on the jury represents the full embodiment of the collective sovereignty of the nation. And if one single sovereign says on that jury that he's not guilty, well, you're not guilty. And that's how personal sovereignty works in actions you between two sovereigns. Basically you can't rehear cases that have been settled by a jury. Taxation only for limited purposes. And again, this is not an exhaustive list. The writings of Herodotus describe how the Anglo-Saxons and the Goths came from another tribe of people called the Scythians, who came from the area near the Black Sea. And some scholars, and I need to research this more because it's kind of new to me, they say that the Scythian people came from the modern progenitor of the people called Caucasian. They obtained this name from when they traversed the Caucasus Mountains into the lands north. From the area around the Black Sea, they spread into Eastern Asia and west into Europe. Considering how long the mightier civilizations of Rome, Greece, and Persia have had more resources at their disposal, and experience in administering the laws of their realms, one has to wonder how the laws held through the generations of the Scythians, Goths, and the Anglo-Saxons by songs, poems, and tradition are seemingly better equipped to preserve a system of government by voluntarism. Yes, and it's just amazing if you think about it. The common law is our cultural heritage, and it is our birthright. In the apocryphal book, 2nd Esdras, we read in chapter 13 of that book, "Those are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoners out of their own land in the time of Hosea the king, whom Salmanasar, the king of Assyria, led away captive. And he carried them over the waters, and so came they into another land. But they took this counsel among themselves, that they would leave the multitude of the heathen, and go forth into a further country, where never mankind dwelt, that they might there keep their statutes, which they never kept in their own land. And they entered into the Euphrates by the narrow places of the river. For the Most High then showed signs for them, and held still the flood, till they were passed over. For through that country there was a great way to go, namely of a year and a half, and the same region is called Arsareth." So there's a lot of controversy as to where this is. They went north a year and a half past the Euphrates River, and God held still the floods. When our fathers looked back at their devastated homeland with regret, they made an oath and a promise themselves that they would keep the statutes that they didn't keep in their homeland. Our common law comes from Israel, and indeed was originally written in the Hebrew tongue. Please ponder these things as much as you like. Psalm 83, "Keep not thou silence, O God. Hold not thy peace, and be not still, O God. For lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people, and consulted against thy hidden ones. They have said, Come, and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. For they have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against thee." And that's this scripture points out a conspiracy. The intention of this conspiracy is to cause the people of Israel to forget their heritage. This they do with war, genocide, and replacement theology, and causing us to forget our set-apart heritage with paganism. And that's been a big problem with who we are. We have often fallen to paganism. And that's how the whole mess got started. And an alternative man-made law is called civil law. If you look up the definition of civil law in Black's Law 4th edition, you'll find that it is synonymous with Roman civil law. And this Roman civil law comes from the Justinian Code. And that's Black's Law Dictionary, 4th edition, page 312. And there is a screenshot I put in this document. It says right there's the Justinian law, the compilation of Justinian and his successors. And basically these are the laws that Rome kept. And they kept their laws from Greece, and they kept their laws from Persia and Babylon. And these things basically are, I have it right here. The Justinian Code is the laws preserved from ancient Rome, Greece, Persia, and Babylon. Truly the legs of iron, of which the Babylonian king Nebuchadnezzar is the king of kings over, still influences the world to this day. And you can read about that, the legs of iron of Babylon in Daniel chapter 2, verse 31 through 37. And that's this statue. A lot of people, they want to blame the Jews, or they want to blame whoever. But, there's your answer right there. Roman civil law is both martial law and contract law. There is an effort to replace the common law with these jurisdictions, foreign to our Constitution, and acts of pretended legislation. There has been There have been people that have withstood the march of tyranny through the ages. Such examples are the Anglo-Saxon people and the Jews. These two people have been a bastion of freedom against the campaign against right ruling, justice, and freedom. I don't think I worded that right, but there is a campaign that stands against these things. And these two peoples have been a bastion of freedom against those intentions. The Jews, because they have kept the records and language that God handed them, even to their peril, throughout the ages for 2,000 years. And the Anglo-Saxons, because of their historic record of refusal to make themselves slaves. In return, the various groups within these people have been infiltrated to the end that they are discredited, sabotaged, and eventually destroyed. This they do to cut off the Jews and the scattered of Israel from remembering. And that's what my intention here is to do, is to help all of us remember. I pray that whoever may hear these words will open their eyes and watch for the reality of these facts. I would exhort all who haven't seen the movie Cromwell, starring Richard Harris, to watch it for an example of the systematic conspiracy against the Anglo-Saxon nation. The Anglo-Saxon people uncovered the conspiracy by King Charles I to destroy and replace the Anglo-Saxon people in England with whoever would take up the conspiracy against them. This same campaign is over us today, especially in America. When the Founding Fathers wrote up their death warrant in the form of the Declaration of Independence and sent it to the king of the most powerful empire on earth, they simultaneously made a covenant with God, who then listened and liberated us from tyranny. When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them. A decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And that's the Declaration of Independence. In closing, concerning the history of the common law, which is the law that God has preserved to our fathers, to us by our fathers, which is the platform upon which the Constitution was written, we should not rest until we can walk into any court in the nation with the Bible in hand and hold it up as the highest law of the land. And this we do by remembering where our common law comes from. America is a covenant nation. Please teach yourselves the law for your children and your countrymen. We are going into a time and a place where unless we remember these things, they will be completely forgotten. Please click on the links I will provide to learn about law and its application. And I was thinking about putting a link to National Liberty Alliance, where I learned it from, and jurisdictionary.net, I believe. I don't know if there's enough time to do that now, but at the very least, we can print them off and put them in our go bags. We are to be kings and priests. Priests talk about religion, and kings talk about politics. We must soon understand that politics is synonymous with religion. But if the watchman sees the sword coming and does not blow the trumpet, and the people are not warned, and the sword comes and takes any person from among them, he is taken away in his iniquity. But his blood I will require at the watchman's hand. So I'm doing what I can to warn you, warn whoever may hear. I personally believe that this is my task. This has been my passion for a very long time, and I think this is what it's culminating to. Matthew 6:33. But seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. Revelation 21:8. But the fearful and unbelieving and the abominable and the murderers and whoremongers and sorcerers and idolaters and all liars shall have their part in the lake which burneth with fire and brimstone, which is the second death. The book of Isaiah shows the birthright of Ephraim and the laws they had forgotten is to be restored for righteous purposes. More of this in a future video, and I hope to make that video very soon. And the reason why I make this video, I actually made another video and I was wanting to upload it very soon, sooner. I made the video and I called up someone I thought was my friend. I told him about the video and I wanted to spend Passover with him. He had land somewhere locally, and I thought I could rely on him to share a place for me. And it came time that I relayed the idea that I read the Book of Mormon. After he was telling me that he has people who don't subscribe to the same name of God, and they're divided in very many different doctrines. And after I relayed the fact to him that I have my beliefs, he flipped out, and it ended with him basically screaming at me for half an hour and hanging up before I was able to tell him, I hope we can still be friends. But I have a lot of friends who believe a lot of different things. I have a lot of people who believe the flat earth. I don't believe the flat earth. I have a lot of friends who subscribe to a different name, and I subscribe to a very particular name. But nevertheless, I'm willing to set aside my differences so that we can come together in the law, and the law is what defines every action we could make with each other. Every social interaction we have with each other is defined by the law, by the Word of God. And a lot of people say that the law is done away with, but it's really not correct to say that at all. Basically, it's like saying we have the Constitution, so we don't need the Supreme Court reports, or we don't need court reports to define these things. We need them to be defined, so that we can better apply them. And we worship the God of freedom. So basically, I hope that that doesn't turn anyone off to the message, but it made me realize that this person, I asked him, would you stone me? Because he accused me of having a different gospel than him because of my beliefs. And I asked him, would you stone me because you have made the allegation that I proclaim a different gospel? And eventually he got around to, yeah, he would have stoned me if he was on a panel of jurists, and he was to be the linchpin of the case. He would not have acquitted me. And I actually told him, he basically didn't let me argue at all. We were on the phone, and I also told him that I'd have an easier time being heard in the court, because I had my arguments, but he wouldn't listen. But it caused me to remember that I have, and I'm sure you have also, met people who are just full of hate. when you rub them the wrong way concerning some issue, especially religious issues. You know, why should I stone someone because he believes in the pre-tribulation rapture? Or why should I stone someone simply because of what they believe if it doesn't harm me? I have met people like that. They say, well, when all the stuff hits the fan, we're going to have people appointed to be the night watches, and if they fall asleep, then corporal punishment to the highest extent. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Even the disciples of Yeshua fell asleep. Would you have no mercy? And without a trial, and that's the thing. So there are a lot of wannabe warlords, even in the Torah observant community, even in the Hebrew roots community. In all of these communities, there is going to be people, and we may soon find them, sadly, who they will become dictators. And by following these people, you will put your life in their hands. And the answer is right in front of us. It has been for 400 years. The common law. The common law is part of the Torah, and it's been forgotten. And we have to preserve these things. We have to keep them with us, so that if you get accused by someone for what you believe, you will be able to demand a trial, and you'll be able to show that it is biblical for you to demand a trial before you're stoned to death for what you believe. And I think we're close. I hope we're close. I believe I've said all that I have to say, and I hope whoever believes this message will share it. And shalom.